Hey collectors, welcome to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. If you're new here, I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. But if you've been here before, I want you to hit that like button like you're Chewie slamming it into hyperdrive after Han Solo told you to punch it, because what I have for you guys today are two Sideshow Premium Format statues of really, quite honestly, the galaxy's cutest couple, Han Solo and Chewbacca. Let's check it out. All right, collectors, let's go ahead and start off with Chewbacca. I'm a big Chewbacca fan. Being a tall person, I've just always found myself associating with Chewbacca. These two statues came to me one right after the other one. I actually got a really good price on the Han Solo one off of eBay, and I had been watching the Chewbacca one for quite a while. Once I secured that one, I was like, I gotta complete the set. Now you'll see that they don't completely match. There have been at least two that I'm aware of Chewbacca. However, they are very, very close in the sculpt. The big difference is the base. So there is a version where the bases kind of match with one another, but I didn't think it was worth all the extra money to pay that for just a matching base. All right, now that we have Chewie out of the box, let's go ahead and take a look at the art box itself. You get a couple portraits on it of Chewbacca himself with his bandolier and with his crossbow, and he's looking really cool. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. Now, premium Sideshow format pieces don't typically require a lot of assembly, so this will hopefully go pretty quickly, and we'll get the two matched up really quickly. Now this appears to have never been open, which is kind of crazy. This sticker right here is still sealed and has not been cut, so we're gonna be the first ones piercing into this. I have been kind of looking back and seeing what has been made in the past. I'm picking up quite a few Sideshow Premium Format statues as of late because some of the older stuff is going for a relatively fair price, I would say. Like I said, this one has never even been opened, and I definitely bought it for less than what it would have retailed for originally. Okay, so not that many pieces to Chewbacca here. We have an arm. The arm seemed to be sort of stuck into the top piece, but was sort of falling out. This uses magnets to connect the pieces together. If you've watched some of my previous stuff, you know that I love this method of doing it. It creates a really nice seal. You're not really worrying about tension, whether you're pushing it in too hard or whether it's gonna fall out on you. As long as magnets continue to work, you'll be just fine. This right now sort of has the thing unbuckled in the back. I think I just need to be able to slot it back in here. I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. And we have a really nice sculpt on the hand here and all the little detail in the bowcaster. I have a life-size Chewbacca costume, luckily through knowing a couple people that are Chewbacca cosplayers, and I really love Chewbacca. He's kind of the little heart and soul. You know, I love dogs, and I know he was kind of modeled after that. Oh, there's my beautiful boy's face. I was lucky enough to meet Peter Mayhew in 2019 at Star Wars Celebration, and unfortunately he left us not too long after that. But he was a really sweet man, both in person and just anything I've ever read about him and heard about him. Again, through some of the Chewbacca groups that I belong to on Facebook, I've had the pleasure of meeting some Chewbacca cosplayers who knew him firsthand, who were involved in his life, and they just have nothing but really nice, sweet things to say about him. So here is his body, his very long and lean body. I can at least associate with the long part, a little less lean these days, but he's looking good. He's looking hairy. Like I said, this is unopened, so I'm not expecting any imperfections. His little satchel bag back here has been really smushed with the time that he's been spent in this box, so we'll have to kind of mess with that a little bit and give it a little bit of life. The bandolier is attached to him. That's all one piece, and then his arm, his left arm, is permanently attached to him as well. We're gonna put the body over here, and we're gonna locate the base. A lot of the older premium format statues would put the base on the back side of this. So we've got two things down here. So here is the base, and I can tell you that even though this doesn't match the Han Solo we're gonna be unboxing, I really, really like this base. Obviously, I think of Bespin, I think of Cloud City. In my mind, the base, if it's supposed to be Bespin, these should be maybe a little bit more pill-shaped than rectangular, rounded rectangles. And in the bottom here, there is a switch, and there is a place here for some batteries to go into it as well. In addition to the base, we also have another arm in here, because you have the option to display him with either the bowcaster or with this bad boy right here. This is very much a big stormtrooper type rifle. That all moved to the side. Let's go ahead and put Chewbacca together here. So there aren't that many pieces to this compared to something like a hot toy figure where you really kind of have to build them out. Aw, Chewie's little booty. And we'll go ahead and slide this beautiful, beautiful boy's face on there. He is gorgeous. I mean, I have blue eyes, Chewbacca has blue eyes. I don't know, maybe we're just like in the same tall club. I don't know what it is. Let's go ahead, let's start with this Stormtrooper rifle here, just to get an idea of what that looks like. And there we go. That's slotted in there. And there is just the world's tiniest seam going on up here where that arm goes in. Not very easy to see, not very noticeable at all. So you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like here. Now I will say the gun is sort of floating here, not really actually in his hand, and there's no real way to manipulate this. So a slight, if we're looking for some slight critiques, some slight imperfections, I would say that that's a little less satisfying with it sort of being, you know, suspended. I know Chewbacca's very strong. Maybe he's just showing off how strong he is, but he doesn't even need the other hand. But, you know, just a slight critique. Let's go ahead and move it onto the bowcaster, which I think is what I definitely want to display. I'm sure is what most people want to display. Bowcaster has some brittleness to it, so you just have to be really careful with it. And it's slotted in just like that. It is sort of, again, kind of hovering just a tad there, but that is Chewbacca, that is our boy. I don't have the AAA batteries. I need to get some more, but that is because this is a light up base. So that's what's gonna happen here. His eyes don't glow red and he doesn't have a lightsaber to light up or anything like that, but this base down here would light up for us if we were you know, have we had the batteries available. Now, what I prefer are the ones that actually have a power piece into it, because I don't like to keep batteries in my things. They tend to corrode over time. So the likelihood that I'm gonna take the statue apart, put the batteries in, put the battery panel back on, put it all back together, click the button, enjoy it for 30 seconds before the novelty wears off, and then kind of do it all again, is really, really slim. So I'm glad that in later models, they moved over to that type of base and that type of power on this. So that is Chewbacca right there. Big fan of this big boy. And let's go ahead and get his best friend in the whole wide world out of here and check him out and put them together. What do you say about Han Solo? Perhaps one of the better characters, quite honestly, overall of the original trilogy, especially in A New Hope, one of the more interesting characters. Growing up as a kid, I know a lot of people like to pretend that like Han Solo is always their favorite because Han Solo is so cool. I definitely was a Luke guy. I wanted to have a lightsaber. I wanted to be a Jedi, and Han Solo was cool and everything, but you know, he didn't get to do all that cool stuff like blowing up the Death Star and flying around, you know, doing backflips and all that stuff. So it wasn't until later in life that I came to really appreciate Han Solo. And now I just can't imagine being anyone else but Han Solo, you know? He's got that swagger. I have a photo of myself in this costume, which is actually a costume over my shoulder here from Halloween. It's one of my wife's favorite photos of me, being very much a scoundrel. And I've always liked his A New Hope getup, but I've always liked his Empire Strikes Back costume even more. All right, someone's left this little note in here. I think it says, "Thank you, feedback. Open care fully." All right, guys, now we have to open care fully. This is always a little tricky because you never quite know which is the top and which is the bottom. So it looks like I chose the wrong side to lift out. So everything has sort of fallen down in here, but that's okay. So this base is very cool. This is part of the Millennium Falcon. You get some of the floor, and you get some tubing, kind of like what would be underneath the floor, and then you get a little bit of the wall. So very nice, cool base. And like I said, it is something that you can get at Chewbacca with the same base. I'm sure they look awesome together, but everyone that I was finding with that was quite a bit more expensive than the earlier release of Chewbacca. And I think, don't quote me, but I think the sculpt is largely unchanged. All right, and here's the body of our scoundrel here. A little bit of a float to him. He's not quite locking all the way down in here. And he's got all the really cool details. So he's got this great holster here. He's got all the little belt details. Again, these are little things that I have in mine as well. And let's get out this handsome devil's face. Now this is a big improvement head sculpt wise over the really early Sideshow pieces you can get with the A New Hope. This is much more, I think, of a famous Han Solo pose. Now this is using real fabric on the outside here. Again, using magnets, so his head is in there right now. You get the choice, once again, of multiple hands. So this left hand here is going to be all the same. So there's your hand. The fingers look quite long, if I'm being honest. So we're going to slide his sleeve up here, and we'll key that in there. And again, through the magic of magnets, we can be sure that that's going to be nice and secure. And we have two options here. Let's start first with the E11 blaster. It's got all the right details on there. So we'll try this one out first. All right, so there's that. And what's cool about that is that if he has the E11 in his hand, they give you an extra one of his more typical blaster. A blaster that I have over here from Master Replicas, but it has another one of his blasters here, and you can actually have a little holster on his side that you have a place to holster that if you want to. So if you want to display it with the less iconic gun for him, you can do that, and he can still have that one on his hip, which is pretty cool. I like that detail. But I think I'm gonna put his famous blaster in his hand. Again, the magnets just make all the difference to me. I really love the use of magnets on these. It just makes it feel so secure. There he is. He is Han Solo, Harrison Ford himself. I like that the hair actually has like a little bit of a gap between his forehead and the little kind of curl coming down. That's a nice little added detail that definitely didn't have to be there. And it's a really good sculpt. I mean, this is definitely Harrison Ford. Let's go ahead and get these boys together and take a look. All right, collectors, well, here you go. The two most handsome boys in all of the galaxy together again, as they should be. Like I said, you know, there's a base for Chewbacca that matches this. I'm sure that looks awesome. I'm sure that looks great. And if I could just, you know, push a button and swap them, that's probably what I would do. But I think from an idea of having Han Solo and Chewbacca on the shelf next to one another, I think that this pairing right here works really well. I think this is a really cool detail. Kind of gives you a little bit of a diorama. In general, I kind of like my bases relatively simple, but I think this is actually really cool. I'm really impressed by all the little details that I'm finding here on Han Solo in his leather work and things of that nature. There are some magnets used here to make it so that his little straps and holsters all go together. The DL44 here looks great, and his bowcaster back here does as well. Like I said, this is gonna need a little bit of fluffing because it is quite flat at the moment, but you know, name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. This is a great pairing of these two guys together, and I think in Empire Strikes Back, the scene where Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite, and you feel that, you know, Leia, Carrie Fisher, she's great in that scene. I think Chewbacca is what sells it. Like his roar, his like wanting to fight, their back and forth of Han Solo's like, no man, you gotta protect the princess now. Like, I think it's Chewbacca, I think it's Peter Mayhew that really sells that scene. And of course, we all know that Harrison Ford contributed to that scene with his famous line. So I think this is a really cool pairing to permanently display. Collectors, thanks for joining me. This is my first video in this sort of like new quasi setup. I've been in another quasi setup for about a year with the camera facing the other direction. That part right now is all completely cleared out, and I'm gonna be hanging up like a tarp and just demoing everything that's back there. There's 2 wet bars in this house. I don't need 2, so we're gonna get rid of the one that's down here, and that's gonna be all collection gallery space. Once that side is all done with new floors and ceiling and lighting and all that stuff, we'll move it all over here, and we'll do the same thing on this side. But looking to do some really major upgrades to this, and my goal is just to have one of the nicest, most beautiful collection galleries out there, and that's gonna make me really happy, look really good with my house, and I'm just excited to get all my stuff back on display, and for really kind of for the first time, display it all properly. So if you're interested in seeing that all unfold, or if you like things like Sideshow Premium Format, you like things like Master Replicas and one-to-one props, and you like helmets and all that stuff, this is a place for you. Make sure you're following along. Also make sure you're following us on Instagram. I kind of gave a little preview of what I've been doing down here on Instagram just earlier in the week here. So make sure you check that out. It's also a place where you and I can interact a little bit more directly. I try to throw up deals on things when I see it. Try to make sure that you're getting the most out of your collection as well. Guys, that's it. I'll see you later.